Stanley, page 61. I could hear the crashing of paint pots and smashing of jam jars as they were hurled across the room before breaking into millions of crystal pieces on the tiled surface of the floor. Spilled paint flowed in streams before eventually forming a rainbow-like river. Sinks were overflowing, having been plugged with clay, and water was now cascading like a huge waterfall over their rims. The classroom was like a scene from a monsoon. Miss Tracy was screaming for help as she hid in a closet behind her desk. However, her screams could not be heard above the roars of the children as they continued their Stanley-led revolt. Missiles of sand and clay soared through the air in grenade-like fashion and bombarded the closet door, where they landed with an explosive thud. The Disney characters no longer smiled. Mickey tried to console a hysterical Minnie, who was obviously terrified by the scene. Goofy was barking angrily at the children, but his bark was cut short when a corned beef sandwich smacked him straight between the eyes. Above all the terrible noise, I suddenly heard a car horn. I was stopped at a set of traffic lights and hadn't noticed them changing to green. The man in the car behind me had noticed and woke me from my daydream with an impatient honk. I drove on to work listening to the radio in an effort to stop my mind from wandering back to the imagined events of Miss Tracy's junior infant classroom. Next page. Though I was busy at work that morning, I couldn't concentrate. Piles of uncorrected examination papers littered my desk, yet every time I made an attempt to read through them, I failed. My mind wandered, and I wouldn't stop wandering. As I drove back to St. Thomas's to collect Stanley shortly before 1 o'clock, I did so with a certain degree of unease. We were so clear as to the benefits Stanley would get from school, we failed to see that he might be a bad influence on other children. 4-year-olds who started out as ordinary, normal kids might end up as crazy, off-the-wall lunatics. I waited outside the classroom along with several other parents. I felt guilty. My son was going to change all their children. Maybe they would all blame me if their sweet, innocent offspring became uncontrollable little beasts. I tried not to catch their eyes. Thankfully, the door swung open at exactly 1 o'clock, and the children filed out in a neat, well-behaved line. I could see them inside the room, and although it wasn't quite as neat and tidy as it had been earlier that morning, there was certainly no evidence of any riot. Looking up at the walls, I was relieved to see both Mickey and Minnie Mouse offering their welcoming smiles. Goofy too grinned warmly and didn't appear to have been the victim of a well-aimed corned beef sandwich. Stanley was the last to appear from the classroom. He emerged with Miss Tracy, to whom he was chatting happily